Come on.
Come on!
Hello friends and welcome back to Reddix, your source for the freshest daily Reddit content anywhere on the internet. Promise, swearsies, it's just a fact and totally science. Go ahead and look it up. Today we're jumping into r/neckbeard stories. We've got a very beefy story. You know, I just can't stay away from the beardos. I have a weakness. That's why like 90% of my channel is turning into neckbeard content, and I love it. We might try some other stuff from time to time, but most of the time, it's gonna be neckbeards. And luckily, I seem to be like one of the only channels that's doing it relatively consistently, so hooray! I'm definitely excited to share some stories with you guys today, so without any further delay, let's go ahead and jump right into things. The Caterpillar and the Wormbeard. This is my first ever post on here. Well, welcome, OP. I just discovered a lot of people sharing their neckbeard stories through Reddit and YouTube, so this has been on my mind again lately. I've decided to commit my own memory to writing. This is free to share or narrate, which I will. I'll try to keep this concise and not too long, but you have to understand that I got to know these people for years, so I might not be able to keep it all in one go. For context, the main story occurs throughout the duration of my college experience. I was around two neckbeards who were friends in college. I guess we'll call them the Caterpillar and the Worm. A little about myself. As I was saying before, I was a sophomore in college, staying in an apartment a short walking distance from campus. The apartments in the area are co-ed since they aren't owned by the campus themselves. They're set up for students or on-campus families that would rather not brave the cramped horror of campus dorms. I had a roommate I trusted in freshman year. He was polite, minded his own business, paid bills on time, so when he had to move out for an emergency return home before next semester, I trusted his recommendation. I was a little panicked, wondering if I would find someone else to have the bill with me in time to renew the contract. My old roommate told me to worry not. He had an old friend of his that he knew needed somewhere to stay on campus. I was informed that this fellow was studying the same area as me, fine art, and that he was just as nice and wasn't a creep. New roomie is who I'll call Caterpillar. That was my immediate thought upon meeting him before his sign-on to the lease. Like the chubby-cheeked little caterpillar from the Bugs Life movie. I mean this in the most endearing way nowadays. I'm a cute little bumblebee. Heimlich? Yeah. Caterpillar was more of a pseudo-neckbeard. I was very skeptical of him, nervous even, thinking, oh god, what have I agreed to? He totally looked the part. Really husky guy, tall, had kind of a whack taste in shoes, long, always wet-looking hair, and something on his chin struggling to become facial hair. I could tell he was a video game fan by the Legend of Zelda shirt stretched over his gut. There was no fedora though, and luckily no nasty smell, just a pair of old fogged and scratched glasses perched upon his nose, and lots of old wrinkled band-aids on his chunky fingers. I told him my name, and he offered me a really awkward handshake. I wonder what OP would think of my taste in shoes, considering that I've worn nothing but flip-flops since moving to the Philippines. Despite my skepticism of him, Caterpillar did radiate a sort of laid-back, reserved energy. He kept his hands in his pockets as I showed him where things were in the apartment. He'd offer me a cool, or occasional okay, or an acknowledging nod as I directed him from kitchen to living room to my own closed bedroom door, and then to where his own room was. In general, he didn't have much to say aside from this, or his thanks for my assistance and allowing him to stay. The move-in was uneventful, but I could see by the boxes that he brought in from his truck out front that he was absolutely, without a doubt, a video game fan. I love anime and games too, so I further tested his demeanor with questions. I prodded, wanting to know if he was a know-it-all, and of course he was, but again, not in a super neckbeardy way. It was more like the engine that couldn't stop once it got going. Someone who was so quiet just lit up when I told him that I recognized some of the Sega or Nintendo memorabilia that he was lugging box by box into his room. This dude information dumped like a dump truck at the landfill. He went on and on, his gravelly voice carrying exorbitantly across the apartment, even though I'd long left him on his own in his new room. I could see how he and my old roommate could have been friends, so I actually relaxed. He was just a nerd, that's all. Nerds might be socially unaware, but yeah, most of them are harmless. So after a few days, Caterpillar settled in. Just like my old roommate, if I wasn't sitting out in the main living areas, Caterpillar didn't bother me, even if I could tell he really wanted to. He was just a closed-door sort of person, just like myself, and was totally aware of the concept of personal space. Thank God. Things remained comfortable, of course, until they didn't. The stress of college can do a lot of things to people. I myself suffer the pre- and post-midterm messy room, and that's probably double for an artist. But for Caterpillar, this resulted in some irritating behavior. He didn't stink before, but he stunk up the apartment every now and again with neglecting to shower. The funk was the strongest close to his room, but its tendrils slithered through the hall and curled around the corner, attempting to conquer and rule iron-fisted over the entirety of the realm that was our apartment. He grows more neckbeardy by the day. I am admittedly passive-aggressive. I didn't outright tell him that he stunk, or that he needed to wash his clothes, or that he really needed to do something about the dishes that he used that were stacking up in the sink. Waging war, I would leave his dishes by his door, or spray Febreze on the rare occasion that the dark threshold to his beard layer was left ajar. I was really angry with him about this back then because I just cannot stand living in stank. Stankonia. But after the midterms were over and we could have our spring break, he actually did draw up the courage to apologize to me. I'll be real with you, OP, he probably would have apologized sooner if you weren't being passive-aggressive. Just tell people what you need, no shame in that. But as usual, I understand the pains of being young. I was young once. Anyways. Hand scratching behind the head, shuffling nervously, as if he were afraid I was going to yell or curse him out, he said something like, I have trouble multitasking sometimes, when there's just so much to do. I think I get depressed or like my energy goes away. I won't let it happen again. I'd hate for you to kick me out. Well, I didn't know what to say after that. I felt sort of bad for considering exactly that come next lease renewal, but come on. He had to pull himself together. Hygiene, keeping a living area clean is a very basic, bare minimum type of thing. I tried to understand whatever it was that he was dealing with, and I gave him another chance. I even offered to motivate him to look after himself when he was stressed out. I actually got around to helping him clean non-super personal stuff up in his room for spring break that year, since the onslaught of midterms was over. I cannot begin to explain the magnitude of hot mess that room was, but he and I sort of bonded a little over filling up those trash bags. It was mostly a chat about video game stuff, since that's what decorated a majority of his nerd nest. He told me, thanks for helping him clean up, since he probably would have been overwhelmed with it on his own. And then he wondered if I wanted to help him clean up my room after. Now, I'm a little dragon of a lady who fiercely protects her own hoard. I grew up with a very invasive mother who would snoop through and even throw out some of my things while I was at school. I had, and honestly still have, a system of keeping my door closed. Now that I'm an adult, I like to keep it locked to protect my own memorabilia. A millimeter thick of graphite, like the sort you keep in a mechanical pencil, will tell you if someone has opened the door if you place it in a certain area on the hinge. It either makes a mark on the frame or it snaps, a trick that I learned from dealing with my mother. This will make some sense when I come back later, but I declined Caterpillar's offer to help me clean my room. Dragon Lady territory only. And it's booby-trapped, just like in the story we read yesterday. So I met and got on good terms with the Caterpillar, but now enters the Worm. Worm was someone who I had seen in passing. He was friends with Caterpillar since they would play Smash Bros. Or D&D in the upper lounge floor of the university cafeteria hall. He was without a doubt a full-fledged, obnoxious, tone-deaf, socially unaware neckbeard. He wasn't as husky as Caterpillar, and not as tall, but they were commonly mistaken for brothers. He didn't wear a fedora, but he was always in a faux leather trench coat that was one size too small. He wore those New Balance shoes with off-white socks, actually dirty socks, not the brand, cargo pants, and the same few pilling horror t-shirts. It seems like OP is so aware of fashion, which I'm totally not. It's an interesting perspective. I was on good terms with Caterpillar, as I said before, and he never made me uncomfortable, so I didn't mind being seen around campus with him. The first time I met Worm, I think he assumed that Caterpillar and I were a thing. I could practically feel him scoping me out, sizing me up with some misplaced envy, even after Caterpillar had informed him that we were just roommates, and I was looking for something to do with my downtime on campus. I tried to keep my eyes ahead while Caterpillar and his other friends were playing their match in Brawl, but of course, Worm kept trying to get in close to me. I remember vividly just because of the way he smelled. Kind of like a wet dog, but human. And fishy, because he always ate sushi from the downstairs cafe on account of being a full-blown weeb. And I know Worm never washed his freaking eel sauce-covered fingers. A neckbeard and a weeaboo. What unholy abomination have we encountered?
So, are you a sophomore? Exchange student, madam?
Madam.
Oh, madam, you're a lusty old gal, aren't you?
Yes, I was a sophomore, but not an exchange student. My college was and still is international heavy, so I didn't really see what he was getting at the time, but I'm ambiguous facially. I've been mistaken for Asian or Latina before, but I'm actually black.
You like video games or anime?
I told him that I did in fact like video games, but Animal Crossing or Terraria or Kingdom Hearts or Kirby
We're too casual, not real video games.
Worm played
Manly, deep, intellectual games like Dark Souls and Alan Wake and Resident Evil and Darkwood.
which honestly really are some pretty interesting games, but the way he insulted my own preference and tried to play himself up just really irritated me. I awkwardly laughed, though. I didn't want to be rude in front of Caterpillar's friends. We all have that one annoying associate, right? God, he's that guy. People who play strictly games with like a dark aesthetic are just so try-hard. You're trying to feel like a grown-up man, aren't you? As somebody who plays Animal Crossing, Pokemon, Super Mario, Breath of the Wild, like almost exclusively these days, I'm quite offended. It's just like a giant red flag that this dude does not know how to have a good time. Eventually, inevitably, he nudged the conversation into asking if
I had any friends who were into the same stuff as all of them.
and then of course, the final shove,
Do you have a boyfriend?
and my stupid ass, my dumb ass answer was no. And I also added that I wasn't interested in having one at the time, since I wanted to stay focused on building my art portfolio. But, oof, too late. The hunt was on. The worm had set his sights on the most easily reached, succulent little green leaf on the barren girl gamer tree. I wish I could have seen it then in his slimy little smirk. Maybe I could have put my guard up earlier. If Caterpillar wasn't going to make any moves, then Worm was going to try his hardest to earn my attention. And try really uncomfortably hard, he did. Told you, try hard. It even weirded Caterpillar out a little bit. I assume Worm would probably ask his
best buddy, his old pal, if OP would be coming to their Smash or D&D meetups, or if I would be coming to their study groups.
Even though Worm and Caterpillar and I were completely different artists. They did game design, of course, and OP was into painting.
He's asking if you're gonna come to the meetup again? He has something for you. I don't know.
Caterpillar had the cell phone up to his ear. His eyes were large and exasperated. You know that look people make when they're just over it, and they're trying to see if you can tell how over it they are? That's the look. Worm did that neckbeard thing, where he would just buy me really unnecessary gifts. He bought me a plush of Isabelle once, and a bell bag full of chocolate coins. That's the one gift I remember the most because it was hard for me not to turn it down. I accepted them. I know, and he took that as a free pass to ask for my number.
So I don't have to bother Caterpillar anymore when I have stuff for you, Madam Plush.
That was the innuendous nickname that he gave me. Never accept the gift. Never. I mean, OP says she knows, but man, that's a can of worms that you can't put the monkeys back in, you know? Now, I'll reiterate, I know I should not have taken the plush or the chocolate, but I really did feel like it would have been rude not to just accept this nice stuff from him. If all he was doing was trying to keep contact with me for little things, then I felt like it would have been okay. I was dumb, and also very wrong. It was the first check and save point for him. The worm was crawling further along the branch to take a bite out of me. It always starts small. It's gonna devolve so quickly. Worm texted me all the time. I could feel my phone vibrating in my purse in the middle of my art history lectures. He'd text me late at night, things he thought I would find interesting during one of his shopaholic binges. It was annoying, but the texts were at least normal-ish at that point. He'd send me photos of plushies or stickers or cute ball-jointed doll pets, since my new nerd man friend group knew that I hoarded them in my coveted closed-door den. Those were fine to send to me. I guess it was whatever. But there was one night when he actually sent me a screenshot of a different website and asked me my opinion on some sort of kitty-themed outfit. I'm very sure that it was lingerie. Cat girl lingerie, bro. Never in life. This dude was actually asking me, in his own weirdo way, if I was interested in lingerie being bought for me. I'm not gonna lie, it was very cute, but there was no way in hell that I was gonna accept this from someone I barely knew, who was really, really creeping me out at this point. I told him that, oh, it's really not for me. You don't have to buy me anything, just keep your money for final supplies, dude. He wasn't getting my hint that I didn't want to be enticed with lingerie. He kept sending me different styles, asking if
this or that was cute, or if I was a more sophisticated madam that preferred less silly designs.
he even told me about things that
He thought I would look good in.
and I replied with, I'm good with nothing. Seriously, this is a little bit weird, lol. And he gave me an,
Oh, okay, sorry.
but that only stopped Worm for a short while. It only gradually escalated from there, but this is getting really long, so I'll have to add on later if anyone would like me to. Over summer break, he started spending time at Caterpillar's place and subsequently my place. And it almost made me consider completely moving out. Thanks if you stop by and read, and I apologize for any misses in Reddit etiquette or spelling mistakes. Until next time. And to think it all started with a plushie toy or whatever. Like, OP, you kind of opened the door to all this stuff, you know? He took your acceptance of his gift as a sign that it was okay for him to make advances. And so the advances got a little bit creepier and creepier each time, and at no point did you pump the brakes and say, hey, look, dude, I don't like this. Sometimes you have to be extremely forward, especially with people who don't necessarily recognize signs and social etiquette, obviously like Worm doesn't. The second he tried to present me with some lingerie, I'd make him explain himself, be like, what do you think is gonna happen with this? I don't like it. Now, I'm not saying that Worm had any right to try and literally worm his way into OP's life or anything like that, but you gotta stop the advance, just nip it in the bud, and then you probably won't have to worry about it at all. Luckily, it seems like Worm has Caterpillar around to keep him on the straight and narrow, but if Worm is ever at your house alone with you, vacate the house as quickly as possible, because this dude is giving off major creep vibes, and that's definitely not something that you just want to be like, oh, I guess I'll put up with it and maybe it'll change. It's not going to change. You need to push back, and I say that with all the love in the world. So good luck, OP. I know you can do it, and of course, thank you for sharing your story. I hope that you will add to this one quite soon, and I'd be happy to read that on the channel. And friends, if you'd like to push back against the algorithm's suppression of this channel that we all like so much, really, I don't think we've been suppressed at all. The channel's been booming as far as growth. But if you'd like to help that growth go even further, I should say, I hope that you will like, comment, and or subscribe on this video. That is massively appreciated. Also, check out the links in the description. We've got Patreon, PayPal, Twitter, Discord, Facebook, all kinds of stuff going on. And of course, I would be remiss not to thank my gorgeous, wonderful, beautiful, generous patrons, Lady Nix, Crimson Albedo, Dot Nathan, Robert Waits, Just Austin, Pope Squid, Rebecca H, Cider Drinker, Tato Ferret, The Last Shinobi, and Mark 211. Thank you guys so much for helping me to live the dream. Obviously, if anybody else can support monetarily, I would massively appreciate it. But if you can't right now, then don't worry about it. I just appreciate you hanging out with me here today, and I hope that you come on back and hang out with me again tomorrow. In order to do so, you will need to keep yourself safe, sane, healthy, so definitely wash your hands. Anytime you touch something, just wash your hands. And on top of that, I want you to take some time out today to do something that you personally enjoy, something that helps you to relax, something that puts your mind at ease. And if that's watching another RedX video, then I highly encourage that. But always remember that you are loved, you are worthy, and you definitely deserve it. I'll see you in the next one, friends. And until then, bye-bye.